Hi, everyone. Welcome to Gratitude Tuesday. My name's Raina, and I'm recovery coach here at Capital Recovery. So thank you for joining us. And the last time we were here, I started to do like a self-care 101. And we left off talking about what types of self-care there are. So it could be said, oh, we're reading still on the article from everydayhealth.com. And it states that it could be anything that floats your boat, anything that puts a smile on your face, Dr. Jill Lopez says. Anything that makes you feel cared for, even if it's caring for yourself, which is very, very important to be caring for yourself. There are a few different categories of self-care. The first one is emotional care, such as self-talk, weekly bubble baths, saying no to things that cause unnecessary stress, giving yourself permission to take a pause, or setting up a weekly coffee date with a friend. Emotional self-care, I feel, is extremely important because when you don't, take care of yourself and your emotions, those things can leak over into other areas. Like it goes on to talk about physical care and spiritual care. And if that emotional care isn't there, it's going to spill over. I know that, people get stressed, they get tired, or they eat, or they sleep, or like all these different things that aren't good for us. So, I feel like emotional care is like very, very important to help, build the physical and the spiritual care as well. So then physical care, such as prioritizing sleep, adopting an exercise routine, you can stick with choosing healthy and nourishing foods over highly processed ones. It's all about taking care of our bodies. Spiritual care, self-care, such as attending a religious service, spending time in nature, meditating, incorporating regular acts of kindness into your day, or keeping a gratitude journal. We talk about the gratitude journal a lot. It's a good way to kind of keep track of what's going on in your inside, what's going on around you, things that you're grateful for the day, and then things that might not have gone well. Looking at the positive instead of the negative can really help with your spiritual self-care. Additionally, Jill Lopez put self-care into two further categories, which are temporary and enduring. An example of temporary self-care is going to dinner with a friend. You'll benefit from the social connection, but it won't last very long after you part ways. Enduring self-care, on the other hand, has more permanent effects. Jill Lopez says an example of this is practicing mindfulness regularly because it leads to brain changes. According to a study, published by Psychiatry Research, 8 weeks of mindfulness training led to changes in gray matter concentrations in the brain areas involved with learning and memory processes, emotional regulation, self-referential processing, and perspective taking. That's a mouthful. Basically, what it's saying is that the mindfulness training can lead to finding better ways to your body to process things. So emotionally you start to feel better, physically you start to feel better, spiritually you start to feel better. And it says you reap the benefits of mindfulness whether you're actively doing it or not. So now we're going to talk about what counts as self-care and what doesn't. There's no way to say exactly what counts as self-care because everyone's definition is their own and unique. And that's very true. There are some people might, enjoy doing one thing while somebody else enjoys doing this. Like one person's self-care could be yoga like a couple times a week. Someone else's self-care could be the bubble bath a couple of times a week. Whatever personally makes you feel better is, what self-care is, as long as it's not something harmful or harming someone else. The underlying rule is that it's something that brings you more sustained joy in the long run. And though there are plenty of examples of self-care that seem to tread a fine line between a health-enhancing behavior and a self-indulgence, self-care doesn't have to be about padding your calendar with luxurious experiences or activities that cost money, although it certainly can. So basically, like self-care doesn't have to be paying for a pedicure every week or buying new shoes or, all these other things that can be a little self-indulgent. It can be just something very basic that, doesn't cost you anything, doesn't take a lot of time out of your life, like kind of focusing on the simple things. Consider a manicure or a massage or any other pampering activity. It might seem indulgent, but if the activity helps you de-stress and carve out time for yourself, it counts as self-care. If weekly manicures and monthly spa days are beyond your means, there are plenty of other self-care practices you can adopt. So like I was saying, like those things are wonderful, but those things, are not feasible for everyone. And sometimes, like for me, you talk about a manicure or massage, that sort of thing. Me going to get my nails done feels like a chore. I love it afterwards, but sitting there does not feel like self-care to me. While for someone else, that will feel like self-care. So it says self-care does not have to cost anything. It's just doing things you enjoy. And a lot of the things we enjoy or feel fulfilled from cost nothing. Stepping outside and taking a deep breath, for example, might be the greatest act of self-care. I like that because, I'm a nature person. Like that's where my spiritual path goes. I like to be by the water or, you know what I mean? Go like walk through the woods, certain like things like that. And those things don't cost you anything. Just going outside and like taking a walk or, where I live, there's bluffs with paths that you can walk through and you can go down to the water. You can just like kind of take in everything. And for me, that's a big, big part of self-care. So maybe you try more mindful let's try that again. Maybe you try being more mindful of your thoughts on your commute, or maybe you find ways to make daily tasks like showering more enjoyable. Pick a soap with a scent that you love and focus on the physical sensations of the shower. What does your shower smell like? How does it sound? What does it sound like? How does the warm water feel on your skin? For about 10 minutes in the shower, which I have to do anyway, instead of letting my monkey brain run wild, I'm right here, says Jill Lopez. I like this because my daughter started buying my granddaughter glow-in-the-dark sticks, foamy, bath bombs and all these other things because she was having trouble getting her to take a bath or she would fight. So she just started including like these little things to make it more cerebral, make it more fun, and now like she loves bath time. So, those same things can apply to us as grown-ups. You know what I mean? Maybe like put some music on or, like it says, what does it smell like? Or, doing an extra little scrub while you're in there, like all these different things to take something that we might see as a necessity and turn it into something that can be self-care. It goes on to say daily chores like making your bed in the morning are also examples of self-care, or at least can be. This is where that individuality comes into play. Because for some people, there's no way making a bed feels like self-care. It may just feel like a chore. For me, yes, it feels like a chore. But if it helps you claim your day and gives you a sense of accomplishment early on, you'll have that with you, even if the rest of the day gets derailed. I have heard so many people say taking that like 5 minutes in the morning to make their bed gives them like sets the standard for their day. So for me, I get out of bed, blankets are everywhere, running around to get ready, and then I'm out the door. Doesn't really set my day for a positive, self-care mood. But for a lot of people, that's what it does. It like sets the tone for the day. So it goes on to say, and sometimes when all of our other self-care plans get thrown out of whack, you work through your yoga class, your friend canceled your coffee date, we've all been there. It's those small practices of self-care that provide just enough calm to help us get through the day and wake up in a better mood. So everything might not go as planned. Things that you wanted to do for self-care or, plans that you had set, life shows up, things happen. And we just have to remember that, like, it's okay. It's okay for things not to go as planned. Just keep in mind that, you know what I mean? Like, don't let it affect you to the point where it's going to derail you. So the next part, it talks about the effects, how self-care benefits your health and well-being. Many common self-care practices have been linked to longevity and other positive health outcomes, says Ellen Baker, a psychologist based in Washington, D.C. There's a lot of research, for example, showing that things like exercise, yoga, and mindfulness are supportive of mental and physical health. An article published in January of 2020 noted that longevity in the 21st century depends on abiding by health practices, such as exercising, not smoking, and following a healthy diet, and also embracing a positive lifestyle all around. So I think this is important, to tie this into being in recovery. You have all these bad habits that you gathered. I know I gathered during active addiction, and then coming into recovery and trying to, change those behaviors and, not rely on those things to get through the day. So it's about like finding positive things to replace the negative things. It's hard. It's definitely hard when you first get clean, when you first come into recovery. Your first thought isn't, okay, well, I need to start at the gym and on a healthy diet, and maybe I'll quit smoking. It's more simplistic. It's, okay, I'm going to get through the day without using. That's self-care. That's doing something positive for yourself that day. As time goes on, you get through more days and more days without using, and then you can start to incorporate other things to, continue that positive journey. So you might, start thinking, okay, let me start eating a little better. Might help me feel better, might help me get through some things. And then exercising, it gives you that, physical high of just being able to like be in shape and feel better about yourself. So it goes on to say, paying attention to your well-being involves asking yourself big questions, such as what brings me satisfaction, and then finding ways to get there. According to that report, the following self-care practices have been well researched and linked to a longer life. So the first one is exercise. People who exercise between 2 and 8 hours per week throughout their lives reduce their risk of dying by 29 to 36%, according to a March 2019 study published in JAMA Network Open. Exercise is really important. And I know that some people, exercise doesn't have to be a gym membership and like lifting weights. Exercise can be taking a walk every day, or just doing something physical more than what you would normally do. The next one is finding purpose. According to the researchers behind a May 2019 study published in the JAMA Network Open, having a strong life purpose was associated with decreased mortality rates. I personally think this is very important, especially when we're coming into recovery, because for a long time, I know I had no purpose. My only purpose was finding, and using day after day after day. And then coming into recovery, there was something like wanting to feel like I had a purpose, like there was a reason that I'm here, and fulfilling that. And it takes some work to find that. But I also think it's very important, even if it's like, so I know for a while I had a friend who she wasn't working, and all she did was she was at home, she would clean, do all the normal things throughout the day, but she didn't feel like she had a purpose. So she got a part-time job, And now she feels like, she can contribute, or she doesn't have to rely on the husband for some spending money. Like, she gave herself some purpose. And it can be something as small as just, working a little part-time job. Like for me, this is giving me purpose. Being a recovery coach and be able to help people, navigate through recovery, or even like get the into treatment or any of those things, gives me purpose. I feel like I'm making a difference. I feel like I'm doing something that matters. So the next one is diet. Eating a diet filled with 5 servings of fruits and vegetables per day was associated with a lower risk of mortality, especially from heart-related issues, according to the July 2014 study published in BMJ. I've been learning that diet is more important than I think I ever realized. When my children were younger, I was very big on having balanced meals and healthy meals. And then as they got older and kind of just did their own thing, like I kind of lost track of that healthy eating as well. Because like, okay, I don't have 6 people to cook for anymore. I have like 2. And it's like, do I really want to cook all this healthy food and all this stuff just for me, or just for, me and one of the kids? So I got derailed from that. And once you get derailed from that, let me tell you, it's very hard to get back. Like, diet is a struggle for me. It's one of those things that I know is very important because you feel better. This is talking about how like it lengthens, your life and all these different things. And I've learned over the past couple of years that, certain things that I thought were healthy are maybe not. So it's important to try and find that balance. So the next one is sleep. A study published in September 2017 in the Journal of the American Heart Association found too little sleep, less than 7 hours per night, was linked with higher mortality rates, though too much sleep wasn't healthy either. Sleep is so important, and I struggle with this one as well. I have a hard time sleeping, and it does take a toll on me physically, mentally, and emotionally when I don't get the sleep that I need. I can notice it in the kids. If they don't get the sleep, they're cranky. You know what I mean? And I kind of feel cranky too, so I understand that. So getting a good night's rest, giving yourself a chance to recharge is really important. And then the next one is getting outside. According to a 2019 study published in Lancet Planet Health, spending time in green space is associated with a lower mortality rate. Goes back again to like the spiritual and, emotional, mental well-being that being outside in nature in the world can help you. I tease all the time because my daughter's brothers are staying with me. They're 11 and 14, and sometimes I go into their room and I'm like, will you please go outside and air yourselves out? Like, it's important. Like, go out and play, like something, because it's really important to get outside and bring in that fresh air, refresh yourself. It's like there's so much out there and so many beautiful things. It's really, I feel, really important for self-care. So the clinical evidence documenting the long-term health benefits of specifically taking a self-care approach to health over other approaches is less robust, but it is building. And for instance, research shows that people with chronic conditions who are more likely to follow medication regimens, to be knowledgeable about how to care for their health, and to have the skills to take care of their health, characteristics that are considered part of self-care, indeed were more likely to score higher when it came to measures of mental and physical functioning. I can definitely say that this holds a lot of truth, especially for me. I have an autoimmune disorder, and when I'm not taking care of my health, it takes a toll. it shows. And, I know like following the medication regimens is very important, but it's also very important for me personally to make sure that my self-care is like that I'm doing that. Because if I don't get enough sleep, if there's too much stress, if I'm not eating right, if I'm not, moving around and getting some exercise, all of those things start to take a toll on my body and it'll start to shut down on itself. So I have to be very mindful of a lot of these things. Not just for the purpose of self-care, but the purpose of my physical, well-being. So it says Jill Lopez has led self-care workshops for students, professionals, and community members at conferences, in school districts, etc. Professionals say, blah, blah, blah. She says after her workshops, participants report psychological, emotional, spiritual, and professional improvements. They say they're more in tune with their own emotions and can more easily identify when they're feeling anxious or unbalanced. So that's really great. Like the more you're taking care of yourself and the more that you are in tune to things that are triggers or things that give you positive, feedback, you'll be able to it'll be easier for you to kind of like find that balance in what works for you and keeps you in a healthy state. The self-awareness helps people perform better in their jobs, enables them to be more mindful, and helps them combat burnout. And burnout is one of those things that is very common in this field and the health field, a lot of different things. So taking care of yourself and finding time for self-care, it just goes such a long way. So that's all I have for today. And I would love it if you guys came in, do a gratitude journal with us, just be part of your recovery and take some initiative for some self-care. All right, thanks.